What's up? I'm Gundam Pete, and these are some Fatshark Predators. Basically, the specs on these, 640 by 480, just like everything else Fatshark. They got a 25-degree field of view, which is much narrower than anything else that Fatshark has really put out. So that's definitely something to think about. They include a head tracker and a airwave-based receiver, which, no two ways about it, airwave stuff is good. Interesting part about the receiver, this is the stock 5.8 gigahertz receiver, and you'll see nicely right there's just a couple of pins that it connects to. So I asked Fatshark, can I swap this? And he said yes, it's possible. So all you gotta do, pop off these two screws, get the thing apart, a little bit of trimming you gotta do to the case, but you can fit a 2.4 gigahertz module in there, which is what I did because I fly 2.4 gigahertz video on my quad. Damn it. So it took me about 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. The receiver for 2.4 gigahertz is 25 bucks. So cheap mod, easy, goes right in, why the hell not? As far as the picture itself, really good. I've owned the Fatshark bases for a while now, and they got a really big field of view. It's like 46 degrees, so it's, you know, close to double what these have. But it's a trade-off. They're still 640 by 480 resolution, which means just a big blocky picture. The best way to describe it would be like having a big standard definition television. It's SD. It's not gonna look that great. I would rather watch a 32-inch high-def TV than a 45-inch or 46-inch standard definition television. That's kind of the idea with these. You know, it is a smaller field of view. You will notice that when you put it on. You're gonna say, oh, you know, that is smaller than the bases, but it's a much sharper, clearer picture. There's less edge distortion. There is no IPD adjustment. One of the reasons for that, from what I understand, is that because of the optics they use, the magnification isn't as great with the bases. So you don't need a perfect little setup for your IPD. You can just go with a pretty general, I think it's 63 millimeter. However, if you have a very, you know, wide or very, very short, you might run into issues. That said, you might run into issues with every goggle. So can't really help you with that. The picture itself, though, is absolutely great. I prefer these to my bases. When you put them on, although the picture is still standard definition, it's smaller with the same resolution, which means you get more pixels in the smaller area, makes the image seem sharper, makes it seem higher definition than it is. I think the colors are better. Now, I don't use OSDs personally. I just use a little timer from my GoPro. I use the GoPro live video out, and it's much easier to see it in this than in, say, my bases. The little eye cups here, they're nice. You know, feel pretty solid. They work well. The big issue, though, is they pop off pretty easily. Although, I mean, that's not really a big issue. It's little pieces of rubber pop off, you pop them back on. However, if it's a big issue, you can just put some 5-minute epoxy in there. I put a tiny little bead on the bottom side, left the top side off so that I can still rip these halfway off if I need to. I think the idea behind these was to kind of step away from the foam. The Fatshark bases have a foam lining all around, and it's just like rubber cemented in place. And so a lot of times it'll peel away after a while. Replacement sets are cheap. They're like 75 cents, like really cheap, maybe $1.50 depending on where you get them. Fatshark heard a lot of people were complaining about that, so they decided to go to these rubber cups. The last model before the Dominator, the base editions, had some issues with fogging I always found, and basically on kind of cooler mornings, or especially in winter, you put on your goggles and 15-20 seconds later you would be seeing absolutely nothing but, you know, a hazy blur. And wasn't such a big deal on a quad. You could just set it down, but on an airplane that can be a huge issue. My fix was always just to take the goggles up. If it's cold outside, odds are I'm driving to where I'm going, put them up on my dash where my heat is coming out to defrost my windshield, gets the goggles nice and hot, so when I put them on my head they're already warm. What causes the fog is cold optics by your warm face, so if you warm the goggles up first, not a problem. With the Predators, I've noticed less tendency to fog. You can still get them to fog. I did it very, very cold outside. I just strapped them on, threw them right on my face, flew my quad. By the end of the flight, I was like, these are kind of fogging up. If you don't want to throw them on your dash, a good easy way is you can just plug them in, put them on your forehead, let them warm up for a while there. Once they get up to temp, they're not going to fog much anymore. Or you could go buy some anti-fog like they sell for motorcycles or for paintball. Something like that can obviously take care of that. But I have noticed there's a bit less tendency to fog with these, which is good. These actually have a volume for the audio out. That's great. The original Fatsharks did not. So if you wanted to use audio, you needed headphones with a volume on them. Otherwise, you were going to go deaf. Channels, it picks up a bunch of different channels in whatever, whatever module you're using. I'm using 2.4, so I get a lot of channels. The fact that, they can produce a 640 by 480 goggle for that cheap these days is pretty amazing. And the reason it's so cheap is because the LCDs are a bit different. Kopin is the name of the company that produces the LCDs for Dominators, for the Fatshark bases, or Aviator editions for these. They're pretty universal. They make very small LCDs and they're pretty well known. When I had this thing open to replace the module, I took a look at the LCDs. It says Kopin right on those damn things. So clearly, there's a high quality LCD in there. So I talked to Fatshark about it. He told me that basically the LCDs in here use a new wafer technology. Basically what it does is it brings the cost down, but it also brings the size of the LCD down. So from what I understand, the optics, which would just be little magnifying glass, look at things inside there, the optics are the same in these as they are in the Dominator, but the actual LCD screen back in there is smaller. That's why you get a 25-degree field of view with these, and a 30 with the Dominator. These were specifically made to get you, someone who hasn't flown FPV before, these were made for you. These have your name right on them. So this is what it was designed to do. Be accessible, be easy to use, get more people into FPV. If you're a first-time FPVer and you don't understand what you need, do I need a camera, transmitter, receiver, experienced FPVers, we know exactly what we need and what's optional, what's extra, what's not really needed. If you want to get FPV, but you don't know what to get, I gotta say that the Predator package they have on hobbyking seems like a pretty good way to go. You get these, you get a 100 milliwatt transmitter, similar to this one, although that one will be on 5.8, this one's on 2.4. You get a camera, CCD killer, it's a decent cam, it's definitely not a bad cam. Cool thing with all of the Fatshark stuff is it uses these standardized Fatshark / Immersion RC connectors. So what I've got here is a 100 milliwatt 2.4 gigahertz transmitter. What I've got here is a 500 milliwatt 2.4 gigahertz transmitter. This is Immersion, this is Fatshark. They were designed by the same guy, pretty sure. The guy's name is Sanders or Sasson or some guy. He's got, I don't know. He's all over the internet. I don't know him personally, however, he talks a lot and he talks about these a lot. No, he did do most of the work on these. And he's kind of the guy behind the company for Immersion RC. Him and Fatshark have kind of, had a good relationship for a while now. Basically what this means is you take your little 100 milliwatt, park flyer, you've been having a ton of fun with this all summer, and you're ready to step it up a notch. So between Immersion and Fatshark, we've got the exact same connectors, literally for both power and for your camera and your audio. You buy your stock Predator FPV system that comes with a 100 milliwatt 5.8. This one's 2.4 because that's what I fly, but 5.8 is basically the same thing. But the Immersion stuff literally pops right in. All you gotta do is unplug your connectors here, put these in, bam, you're good to go. It's that simple. Another great thing is Immersion has a lot of other really good products. They got a really great OSD, they've got awesome standalone receivers, they've got, in my opinion, the best long-range system if that's what you're going for. Immersion always puts out quality. You're getting something good when you buy Immersion. It's got the same 12 volts in, sends 5 volts to a camera. Most of the Fatshark camera stuff's all, actually I believe it is, all 5 volts. So you can swap between Fatshark cameras. You got your 100 milliwatts of 5.8. You've been flying them around all summer, having a bunch of fun with them on your Easy Star or whatever it is. Let's say you're ready to go to something with a bit longer range. Let's say you just want a little bit clearer video. You're happy with your range, but you just want to reduce any dropouts you're having. Or you want to, step it up a notch and maybe fly underneath a bridge. Dive between some trees. Or go ice skating. is a stock system straight off the hobbyking website. With these stock antennas on your goggles and on your 100 milliwatt, you're probably looking at maybe 1,500 feet of usable range. The problem is 5.8 has multipathing and reflection issues. Those are corrected with circular polarized antennas. 5.8 gigahertz is one of those bands that really benefits from circular polarization. So when you switch from an omni whip like this to an omni circular polarized one like this, even though this is for 2.4, 5.8 is going to be probably less than half the side. When you switch to circular polarized, you're actually going to get more range. If you're running about 500 meters on your stock 100 milliwatt, and you really want clearer video at that range, or you want to go to maybe 1 kilometer, then you can buy some circularly polarized antennas from Ready Made RC, yada yada yada, or you can make them yourself. Plenty of tutorials out there. Keep in mind that, you know, you do get a lot of bang for your buck with these, but they do have some limitations. Obviously, even hear me singing the praises of these because I do highly enjoy them, but there are a couple issues, and you know, one of them is even though the IPD adjustment isn't as necessary as on the original Fatshark bases, for some people this still is going to be a problem. If you've got, you know, if your pupils are really far apart, you might not be able to find any goggle that fits your face. I seem to be in the group of people to where these fit just fine, although I do notice a small amount of edge distortion on the left side. It's not nearly as bad as it was on my Fatshark bases, but definitely have to kind of fiddle them around a bit, get them in there. Some people think these eye cups are uncomfortable. I think they fit perfectly. I think they work great. A friend of mine used them, and though I didn't specifically ask him, what do you think of the eye cups, as soon as he put them on, he was like, man, these are, you know, these are nice goggles, is what he said. And that's true. I mean, it's Fatshark. All of their goggles are nice. You need to do a little bit of dremeling to the top of the case in order to get the 2.4 gigahertz module to fit. This is the 5.8. The 2.4 has just about probably an extra, you know, just a few millimeters extra width. So the mounting that was made to fit this thing just needs a little bit of trimming in order to get the 2.4 in there. I'll detail that mod later. Just because you see Fatshark on hobbyking doesn't mean that it's, you know, low quality or there's no quality control or anything like that. Fatshark is a very trusted brand in first-person view. They've been around for a very long time. They were one of the first people to come out with video goggles for first-person view, and they've always, I mean, they're first-person view flyers first. One thing to keep in mind is the head tracker. The cable that comes with this setup is set up for the Turnigy 9X. So if you're using a Futaba transmitter like that, you're going to need the Futaba cord. It's got your PS2 connector here to connect to your head tracker there, and then it's got your nice Futaba mini connector here to go into your Futaba radio. You're going to need a Futaba radio that has selectable trainer functions. If you don't know what that means, basically it just allows this head tracker to control only the channels it needs to. So you will, if you want to use it with Futaba, you're going to need to buy one of these cords. They got them at Ready Made. I believe they have them on hobbyking as well. Pretty cheap, you know, it's just a little cord. Just as a little, you know, approximation here, I'm going to try as best I can. I'm going to use some 640x480 footage that I recorded from my E-Flight Apprentice, but I'm going to use this to try and illustrate the difference between the Predators and the Fatshark bases. Now you'll see that kind of blocky. You know, it's not really looking that great. This is what you would expect to see through, say, the Fatshark base editions. Now, if we swap over to Predators, you'll see, yes, the image is a good amount smaller. You will notice that, just like you're noticing it right now. Keep in mind that this is not an exact representation of the field of view. This is just a representation of relative size. So if the previous video we were watching was the size of the Fatshark bases, this is how big the Predators are going to be. You probably already noticed by now the picture's a bit sharper. You know, it does look a bit better. And in fact, I went in and I tweaked the colors a little bit to try and get it to resemble the difference a bit more. I do find the colors on the Predators are a bit better, so I figured I might as well try and represent that as best I could. So hopefully you see what I'm on about. You see what the trade-off is. It's the best way to describe it, I think.